Hello folks and welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to review the super high-end Varjo XR-4. And what better way to do it than to take a flight in the incredibly beautiful black square turbine Duke. Now first of all, a shout out to Varjo for sending this over. You will be seeing this a lot more on the channel, especially as it matures in software. So let's start first of all with the unboxing. I'll just show you some shots now. Gotta say, a great job by Varjo. It feels like a very premium experience, as you would expect for a headset that is rather expensive. In fact, I'll put on the screen now exactly what the price is. But please bear in mind, this is a headset mainly focused upon enterprise. This is a prosumer or professional grade headset that the Air Force uses to train their pilots. So hopefully that will give you some idea of what this is all about. In terms of the specifications, I won't go too much into that, and I do have a dedicated, detailed specification video of all three XR4 editions. I'll leave that video in the notes below so you can check it out. The version I'm using today is the standard XR4 edition. The resolution of the panel, are you ready for this? It is 3840 by 3744, so basically 4K per eye, with a maximum PPD, that is pixels per degree, of over 50. That's crazy. The field of view is a claimed 120 horizontal by 105 vertical. It has a very high resolution 20 megapixel pass-through cameras with inside out tracking as well as outside in tracking. And as you can see from the faceplate, mine is black. That is because I have the optional Lighthouse faceplate attached. But straight off the bat, I have to say the faceplate feels very cheap and like a 3D printed piece of plastic, which was a bit disappointing. And in comparison to their normal faceplate, it looked a lot better in terms of how it feels. However, for this video you're seeing today, I'm using the inside out tracking, that is without base stations. More on that later. It also comes with controllers, and I must say they are very, very nice. They feel really good quality. I like how they're quite large, especially for my large hands anyway, and the buttons, the materials used does feel excellent. So let's now talk about those visuals and the lenses. A very important factor of any headset. Now, even though this headset is capable of over 50 ppd, for non-dynamic foveated rendering applications like MSFS sadly, which means that today I'm probably hovering around the 35 ppd mark. So I'm really looking forward to trying out DCS World with full DFR to experience that full 50 ppd panel. I can't wait to show that video. And spoiler alert, the clarity is absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, the LCD panel, and that's the first thing that really did worry me. Because it is LCD, I was expecting it not to be so great in terms of its colours and black levels. Well, let me reassure you that the colours are very, very nice. They do remind me very much of the Aero, but it does feel brighter and better in terms of the colour reproduction. Also, black levels, that is a big deal with this headset. And when I say big deal, this is fantastic at night. I did not expect them to be so good. So far, this is way better than even the Pimax Crystal local dimming. It's extremely close to OLED. There is a very slight amount of blooming at the edges, although it does feel very minimal. And I am truly shocked with the black levels of the XR4. It really is the best I've ever seen, especially from a QLED or LCD display. So well done there to Varjo. So this part of the video is very important because I'm going to talk about an issue I had with my first XR4, and it represented as a strange artifact on my display. Known as tiger stripes in the Varjo Discord, I'll just show you a screenshot now from a community member. Thank you very much, by the way, for letting me show this. That is exactly what I could see across my entire display of my first device. It was very distracting, and at first I thought it was Mura, but it's a optical problem that really does distract you because of those strong shadowing and vertical lines. It was an absolute deal breaker for me, but I'm pleased to say that since then I've contacted Varjo and they've sent me a new unit. Now this one, I'm pleased to say, has resolved those issues, which I am so relieved about, not only for Varjo but to you out there who have bought these XR4s as early adopters, because in my opinion no headset, let alone one that's this expensive, should have these sorts of issues. And as far as I can see from the Varjo Discord, they are taking this very seriously, because it's extremely distracting, and especially as a flight simmer it's incredibly difficult not to focus on those vertical stripes because you're always looking at the sky, so it makes the issue even worse, to the point where I didn't even want to use the headset anymore. So if you do have tiger stripes, as it's known now, please do reach out to Varjo because they'll be able to help you get a replacement device. Now that I've got my second unit, the display looks so much better. So moving on to the lenses, they are also excellent. It must be said though that I am a fan of aspheric lenses, especially for flight simulation use case scenarios, simply because you don't get any God rays, you don't get any glare, which I find incredibly annoying in other headsets such as the Big Screen Beyond. In terms of the actual eye box or sweet spot, it's pretty decent. It's not the best I've seen. I think the Somnium VR1 is a lot better. Having said that though, it is really good and reminds me very much of the Aero. There is, however, some distortions with this warping profile that I'm using, especially in the vertical axis. You can definitely see some movement. For example, if you move your head up and down and look at the top of the display, you see that the display does warp a little bit, but you know, you're not going to be doing that in normal use case scenarios, and it's nothing new for aspheric lenses. It's one of the trade-offs. But then when I see headsets such as the Crystal, which I think the warping in that is pretty good, I do feel Varjo can still improve this. Let's quickly talk about the field of view, because there is a really great feature of this headset. You can move the lenses closer or further away due to an eye relief button, and it works really well. And this means the field of view, well, compared to the XR3 and Aero, is a huge difference. No longer do you see a letterbox effect. And in fact, the vertical field of view, I measured it at 101 degrees, while the horizontal field of view is 115 degrees. And I think more so than the actual figures is the shape of that field of view, which is very oval in nature and makes a big difference. It is worth noting though that the eye relief slider all the way in, while you get that 115 degrees, you will then see a slight warping on the outer edges of the lenses as well. So I'd recommend just dialing it back a little bit and maybe getting around 112, 113 degrees, which I know doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but it is a big difference in the headset and very welcome. In terms of chromatic aberration, unfortunately there is quite a bit in this headset at the moment. I say at the moment because this could be again fixed in software with a new warping profile. But at the moment, unfortunately, you can see it on text in virtual desktop, and perhaps on the edges of your wings you can see color shifts, which unfortunately does have an effect on the overall clarity of the headset as well. You may also find that the binocular overlap isn't great either, but for my IPD and face shape, I don't find it a problem at all. Now let's just talk about software for a moment, and I'll also show you how it works with the headset. There's a very little clever touchpad at the right hand side of the headsets, which to be fair is a bit difficult to find at first, but you do get used to it over time with muscle memory. And with that you get features to look into the pass-through or real world, I think they call it. You can mute the audio, because this thing has audio, I'll talk about in a moment. And you can check out your desktop, virtual desktop, which I absolutely love that feature of this headset. It's something that I've really missed from using the Varjo Aero as my daily driver for well over 2 years. The software overall, well, now that I'm using it, because I know there has been some issues and teething problems with the XR4, it seems to be at a point now where it's working very well. I had no issues with that at all. No issues with setting the headset up for the first time, and it just all works really, really well seamlessly. The OpenXR runtime, which is matured now, is really good, works very, very well. I've just got nothing bad to say, quite honestly, about the software. I think it's a great package, and there is a reason why Varjo are the leaders in this sort of field. And, with their professional background as well, it absolutely shows. In terms of the mixed reality, with its 20 megapixel color pass-through, this should be the best out there. However, I haven't used it properly yet, simply because there is some big updates coming for the mixed reality, so I'm going to do a separate video on that, because right now the pass-through is very lackluster and the clarity isn't there either. Now let's talk about something that is really super important, and that is comfort. As you can see, the headset looks quite large, doesn't it? To say the least. This is, without question, one of the most comfortable headsets I've ever worn, period. I was shocked, quite honestly, with how it feels. And with the level of adjustment with that top strap, and I feel every VR headset should have a top strap adjustment alongside the strap at the back, how you can adjust it, and the eye relief. The facial cushion, while it seems quite thin when you look at it, is very, very comfortable. It is really, really light, and because the headset doesn't stick out too far, like the VR one, which is very front heavy at the moment, although I haven't used the final strap, it is all day comfortable. I have used this for a full 3 hours and not had any problems at all. It's also worth noting that this headset has a great feature that I loved from the Aero, and that is active cooling. You can feel a little bit of air on the face, and if anything, it's not quite as strong as the Aero, so I don't think it will dry your eyes out at all if you're sensitive to that, and it really keeps you cool and calm. This feels like it just fits my face perfectly, like they've designed it for me. So top marks there. I can't say enough how I can just use this headset all day long without any problems. So I've been testing out the spatial audio, which is piped through the strap. And I must admit, I am a bit disappointed with the quality of the audio, mainly due to the bass response, which is very lackluster indeed. It does sound quite, as we would call it in the UK, tinny, or rather just does lack a bit of body to the frequencies. It's great though that it's there. I'd rather it be there than not, and I think it's fantastic and commendable of Varjo to be able to include this. But I would recommend for the full experience to use headphones or some really good desktop speakers. Also, in terms of the microphone, it's not that great either. I mean, I'm pleased it's there, and I'm going to do a full flight in the Varjo XR-4 soon using the microphone. So it's not like it's terrible, but again, it just lacks a bit of body and bass, and it just sounds like I just expected a bit better from Varjo when it comes to the quality of the microphone. It's nowhere near up there with, say, the Big Screen Beyond, for instance. I do hate to complain about this simply because at least it does have audio and a microphone now, but I just wish the quality was a bit better. Let's quickly talk about performance. Well, when you compare it to, say, the Varjo Aero, it's exactly the same if you're using the same resolution. But the trouble is, since this has a much wider field of view, you're rendering a lot more resolution, a lot more pixels per degree. So it is harder on performance than you would expect. And full resolution, I say that in terms of MSFS, is actually only 35 ppd. I'm getting around 35 frames per second, maybe 40, with a bit of foveated rendering using the OpenXR toolkit. So you do have to turn those visuals down, even with a 4090. That's just like that with any headset. That's not, an issue with this particular device. It's like that with anything, because at the end of the day, more resolution means a lot more for your computer to handle. It is scalable though, and I've found that using the high setting with MSFS in TAA mode is kind of the best compromise. I can get around 40-45 frames per second depending on what scenario I'm in, and it feels smooth enough for this type of experience, that is general aviation. As for other applications like Half-Life Alyx, racing sims, you can get a full 90 frames per second absolutely fine, and especially with DCS World, you should be able to get 90 frames per second at even 50 ppd. So this is not really Varjo's fault. They have eye tracking which works fantastic, and in fact Varjo's eye tracking is the best I've ever experienced. It's really, really well done. It never fails. It's super fast. So if the applications can support it, then you get a massive jump in performance. So this is more of a gripe with Asobo and Microsoft Flight Simulator than it is about this headset. It is capable of delivering immense visuals, like the best visuals you've ever seen. Superb clarity at 50 ppd. The only drawback is the application itself, so please also keep that in mind. One thing that I did forget to talk about, having mentioned the tracking, is the inside-out tracking of the headset. It's really great that Varjo have made that jump over to their own tracking solution. And while I have heard there's been some bumps along the road, this version of this software that I'm using, as you can see, seems to be working quite well. And I've had a few occasions where it said I've got low light for the tracking, but it's never actually broken tracking yet. Now, I'm not sure what it'd be like playing competitive Beat Saber, but for flight simulation in a motion rig, it seems to be working fine for me. So how can I sum this up? On one hand, I love the fact that this is capable of 50 ppd and it looks phenomenal in DCS World, video coming soon. I really like how they've integrated their own tracking. It's got really good field of view now compared to their other headsets. It's got great black levels. It's got the same really nice spheric lens design that we've come to love with the really great sweet spots. And as for comfort, it is one of the most comfortable headsets I've ever worn, and I can wear this for 3 hours absolutely no problems at all. It's got that Varjo feeling and flair about it, especially with the software. Forgot to mention also that the motion reprojection is absolutely superb, even at 30 frames per second. I remember the days of when I first tried motion reprojection, and I still feel that Varjo have done a fantastic job of their own implementation and algorithms. However, the headset is not perfect. There's clearly some quality control issues, and while I'm so glad they've sorted out the vertical lines in the display, it shouldn't have happened in the first place in my opinion, and it does worry me of the quality control process. So combined with all the other things I've mentioned in this video, I think Varjo has made the right decision to slightly delay the headset going consumer, that is, available to you and I. And I also don't recommend that you buy it right now. I feel the hardware is there, but the software needs to catch up. For example, the tracking, while it's okay for flight simulation, even in a motion rig as you've seen, it doesn't handle low light very well. So this next couple of months is going to be really interesting. The war is on, the fight of the best VR headset in the world crown, especially for flight simulation. Will it be the Somnium VR1 or the Varjo XR-4? Well, I'm intending to let you know once I have the final version of that headset. And things do seem to be changing fast in the PC VR sector. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye for now.